Well, welcome back to the Courageous Girls podcast. I'm your host and founder of Courageous Girls, Terra Mattson. And you know what? We're going to talk about social media today in a digitally distracted world where everything is just filtered. We have this conversation often with our girls and courageous girls throughout from second grade all the way through high school. It comes up almost in every year curriculum at some point because at each age and stage of our daughter's years, we have to address it, and they're ready for different aspects of understanding social media and the impact it has on us and also us mamas. So I want to just say we're going to start this conversation off with grace and knowing that we will all be convicted. I'll be convicted as we talk about this conversation as well. But in order to do this well, I wanted to bring one of our counselors from Living Wholehearted, Katie Wise, to have this conversation with me. Welcome, Katie.
Hi, Tara. Thank you. I've been looking forward to this all week, so thanks for having me.
I am so excited. I've been looking forward to it too, and you're welcome. For those that are listening, they might not know that my day job has been a licensed marriage family therapist and an executive coach, and we run an organization called Living Wholehearted. And we have amazing counselors here in Oregon, and Katie has been working with children and teens and marriages. She does it all. She's also a marriage family therapist. So talk a little bit about who you are, Katie, outside of the counseling office, and then what drew you to actually the counseling world.
Yes. Oh, such great questions. I just, a little bit about me outside of counseling is that I've lived in Oregon for maybe we're getting close to 5 years, maybe 4 years,
Transplant.
somewhere in there. Yeah, transplant. And so, um, yeah, I'm married, been married for 10 years, and we live in the Pacific Northwest, and we really love it here. I was actually born on the Pacific Northwest, and now I'm coming back many, many years later. And so there's just something nostalgic and something so fun about being in the green and the hiking and the trees and so, yeah, we're settling in. And as you said, I now am a marriage and family counselor at Living Wholehearted and just do a lot of work with families, with parents, kids 18 and younger, but also couples and individuals. Like you said, I do it all. I see it all, and just am really loving it. Yeah.
We're so glad to have you on our team. And yeah, you have a perspective. I mean, we've got courageous girls groups all over the country and now in 14 countries outside of the US. And so you've lived in different parts of the country, and really the topic we're discussing is across the board. It isn't necessarily a cultural piece, but there might be some things unique to the Pacific Northwest that we speak to from that we see in our counseling office. But let's just start there. Let's start with social media and the impact. We now know, Katie, more than ever before. I'm so grateful. Parents understand the impact more than ever before, thanks to someone like Jonathan Haidt, who wrote The Anxious Generation and really brought a lot of the data and the research that we have as clinicians into the mainstream to say, hey, this is causing brains to change, and all of the behavioral issues and a lot of the mental health diagnoses are coming because of digital devices and social media particularly. So talk about your clients. What are some of the things you're seeing, the fruit of social media and the impact it's having, particularly on girls?
Yeah. Oh, so good. Yeah. So I do. I see a lot of young girls. Um, and when I think about one of the biggest things that comes into my office, I really just go to identity.
Mm.
There's such an impact on young girls when it comes to social media about who they are, what they believe about themselves, and the voices and the messages that they're hearing about who they are. Am I beautiful? Am I worthy enough? Am I enough? It's such a
Mm.
big question. And so um, I just think when girls are coming in, and I like I said, I see kind of the 0 to 18, right? But so many of the girls I see are looking for voices to tell them. They're learning about who they are.
Mm.
They're learning from the voices around them, from parents, from teachers, from siblings, from extended family, from the coaches that they're working with in their extracurriculars, to tell them and to teach them who they are.
Mm.
And so it's like everybody around them is holding up a mirror going, this is what I see in you. You're creative. You're worthy. You're beautifully and wonderfully made. You are um, just athletic and gifted. And they're slowly hearing and they're picking up all these pieces, and it's informing how they're seeing themselves. And so it's lots of voices in one day, but when you bring in social media, it's another layer. And so the research says that young girls are on social media, and this is average, but 4 to 7 hours a day. Um, so much time. And so when you think about that, they could be hearing hundreds of other voices, thousands of other voices each day or each week telling them who they are or who they are not or who they're supposed to be. And so there's this formation that is happening for them at critical ages. And social media is really playing a role in what they're seeing when the mirror is held up to them.
That's well said, Katie. It's kind of sobering, right? To think about going from the key voices that teachers and, Sunday school leaders and parents and aunts and uncles to all of a sudden opening it wide up to the world
Mm-hmm.
and social media. Now, when we say social media, it's very broad. I mean, people often think Instagram and they're like, oh, my daughter's not on Instagram. And I go, well, there's lots of different versions of social media. So maybe you can name a couple. I can name a couple. Honestly, I'm not fluent in this because I have some really high biases around social media. But one of them throw out is Spotify. People don't understand or parents don't realize that Spotify is actually a social media that they can engage with one another. And there's all kinds of videos that come in through music. And so if your kids are accessing social or Spotify, they're also accessing a form of social media. So that might be one that's not on the list you commonly thought about. Do you have one that you think of that kids do that parents would be like, oh, didn't think about that one?
Oh, yeah. So many. So many. It's funny because as you're talking, I'm thinking when I grew up, so I'm going to tell a little bit of a story and then answer that. But when I grew up, there were like two options. It was MySpace and Facebook, and you really weren't using them in all these sophisticated ways. It was so limited. And now there's so many. You look at just all the different options when you go on the App Store, and there's things like Be Real.
Yeah.
Um, it's one where you take a little snapshot in the moment and you post it, and it's supposed to cultivate kind of this atmosphere, this idea of I'm being real. I'm taking something that I can't filter or doctor. It just where I'm at goes out, and people get to see my real life.
Mm-hmm.
From that to the ones that we know, like TikTok and Instagram and
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, and then there's Pinterest. That's a really fun and creative one, but also one where there's lots of videos and images, and there's lots of dialogue. And so it just even seems like there's more options now, but there's also all those options are more sophisticated. Where it used to be
Mm-hmm.
about photos, now we're engaging differently, and there's direct messaging attached to it, or
Mm-hmm.
um, so that it's just the accessibility and the sophistication of all these little platforms has expanded so dramatically in the last. I mean, every year it's becoming more and more evolved.
Right. And again, as parents, I mean, I've got 17 and 19-year-old now, and my 19-year-old just started Instagram, and we had lots of dialogues around it. But all throughout high school, I'm just confessing that out loud right now, Katie, because people ask me all the time, well, are your kids on social media? I'm like, nope. And it's not that we haven't had the conversations and they didn't, they wanted at different points, but along the way, based on what we're going to talk about today, we just help them understand the why not, or why we're not recommending social media at their age. And mainly identity was the key, you said.
Mm-hmm.
But also the impact on girls is significant. And most parents don't understand that piece. They see it as fun. And, we are monitoring it. What's the harm? And we're thinking about like the boogeyman behind social media, right? The predators and kind of worst case scenario. But there's a lot of other dynamics that are happening for girls. So let's speak to that specifically. What are the effects,
Yeah.
the outcomes that impact our girls in ways that parents might not really understand?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My mind went right to, it's tied to body image,
Mm.
which a little bit will tie into the identity piece. But what is happening now is that almost all the platforms you can post pictures of yourself. And what happens is everything now has filters. And the filters have evolved over time. So it used to be that there was more of a playful, cartoonish, you could put dog ears on yourself and your eyes got really big. And so filters have kind of taken different forms, but now filters are really, they change your whole face, your whole structure. Filters now can they can actually change your bone structure. So they can put your cheekbones higher. They can slim down your nose or your chin. They can completely detexturize your face. So there's no texture visible. They can change your eye color or your eyebrows and the way that that's formed and shaped. They can completely blur out any of the unique pieces of us that show up, like a dimple or a beauty mark, or eliminate the parts that are showing up, like acne, and that or scars that tell the story of your life. It can completely shift all of those pieces. And so those filters actually make us look quite airbrushed. There's a lot of one right now that's popular is the glamour one, and it makes us look airbrushed like we would go on the front of a magazine. And so where this used to be something where it was for celebrities, it's now in the hands of anybody. And our girls have access to this and they're using it. Everybody's using it. And so a couple things about that is that it's hard for our girls to discern what's been filtered and what's not when everybody's using filters. So there's kind of a reality thing that happens for our girls where they're going, well, everybody looks like this. And then she looks in the mirror and she sees the zits, or she sees the little imperfections and her skin's not blurred. And there's a dissatisfaction that grows in her world. She's going, but all the girls look like this. But the other piece is too, if our girls are using filters, they're seeing a perfected version of themselves. And people are liking it and they're commenting on it and they're going, that's beautiful. Or they're saying things and it gives her a rush of dopamine. It's the reward chemical that goes, yeah, this is good. Let's do it again. It feels good. But then when she goes into the mirror and she sees that she doesn't look like that, and there's not the dopamine rush, it just continues to create this dissatisfaction to go, I'm not beautiful, I'm not good enough, or a kind of unsatisfied unsettledness about herself. Uh, and so it can be really, really crushing, and it can be really overwhelming. And then what happens when somebody doesn't like it, or she doesn't get enough likes, or as many likes as the last one, or somebody says something that stings. And so then there's this need to always be doing more, or filtering differently, or reconstructing what she looks like to present it to the world in a way that's acceptable.
Mm.
And so she loses sight of, I am I am good in who I am. She loses sight of God made me in his image. And because he says I'm good, I'm good. And she begins to uproot out of maybe pieces of truth, and she begins to get lost.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's so good. It's powerful dopamine. So dopamine feels like a lot of people understand what that is now, but for years people didn't understand. But that's the feel good hormone, right? And we get dopamine hits anytime we get a text, an email reminder. Like there's a really powerful play of that. The creators of social media and all the digital were very intentional. They understood the neurobiology and what we need as people, and getting a pleasure hit is a part of what keeps us coming back. And us moms are starting to feel convicted because as you're talking, you're going, yeah, my daughter struggles with that. And so do I, right? Because every time you just scroll and look, there's this, I don't look like that. And there's all these filters and, um, taking away our wrinkles or all the things that we end up looking at. Even just looking at someone's home on Pinterest can make us feel um, icky after. And then we long for a dopamine hit. So we keep going back and doing the back and forth, the icky, and then a dopamine hit. And it creates a habit and it creates an addiction. So that's the other factor that you're speaking to is this pull, the human pull. They're young. Our girls are so young. They still don't know who they are. Us women are still figuring out our identity, but they are, especially that teenager, 13 to 20 Jewish is still in that identity formation stage of who am I, and you're increasing all of the noise of the voices. One of the things that I'm going to share this, Katie, and see where your brain goes. But one of the latest research that's come out is how babies actually increase in anxiety and discomfort when they see a phone in the room with their mom. It does. They don't. Mom doesn't have to be even looking at it. And so we used to have this still face experiment, right? That showed when a mom looked away and didn't pay attention to her baby, the baby would get fussy and start crying and feel really uncomfortable. And then when mom would coo and give eye contact, baby felt, mom loves me, healthy attachment. Well, now they're doing it with the phone and just seeing if when a phone's on the table, that a baby can sense there's a break in our attachment and mom is being distracted, even if she don't look at the phone. That's such fascinating and sad research that's kind of showing us the power of these devices, not just on us, but also what's happening between us, and where we're going for those voices and for that connection. So, where does your mind go when we continue to think about the effects on these girls? And, even as moms are engaging in social media and how that might be affecting their daughters.
yeah, I think my mind is just going to how we are made. We are wired for connection. We
Mm,
are wired for the face to face connection, for to be sitting in a room with somebody's body language. We're wired for touch. Um, Even
mm,
as you're talking about babies, like we're wired to calm one another when
mm,
babies are upset and their bodies get dysregulated and they can't calm themselves down because they're babies. A mom will press the child to their bodies and
mm,
their calm will start to mirror in that baby and the baby will start to calm. And so I'm just going, our connection, our face to face, our physical in the room connection where our attention is for one another is not by accident. That's
mm,
important on purpose. And so there is something about a screen so deficient in that
mm,
human need that God has given us. And
mm.
so
That's good. Yeah. And um, it reminds me of just kind of the long term goal we have for all of us is to find healthy coping and connection. And so, how even just introducing social media at an early stage can really make it hard for our girls to learn how to move towards people, real people,
Mm.
rather than online and hiding behind, right? And learning, one of the effects that I've been talking to my girls about for years, and we talk about in Courageous Girls, is we lack empathy when we are on social media. We don't get to practice. Like if I say something mean to you, Katie, which is part of growing up and learning as a girl, right? And I say something mean, I don't get to see your immediate hurt and the way that you respond physically, your body language, which is part of learning and developing empathy of going, ouch, my words just hurt you. Because on social media, I can throw something out and say something mean, and I don't get that immediate two-way response. And so practicing how to do relationship, how to build empathy, the impact of who I am in the world and how I impact others is all played out in face-to-face relationships, and it's not in social media. So social media ends up confusing kids um, about what they can say and do and how it impacts others. Speak to
Mm.
that before we go on to maybe some tricks and tips of how to actually do healthy around social media. We got a little more on the problem, I want to say.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I just it's the practice isn't there. On
Mm,
social media, it is. It's so quick. I can say something and then turn it off or move along, and I don't see the pain, the hurt, the
mm,
tears on the other end,
mm,
the shoulders that droop, or the anxiety that you can almost sense in somebody when you've hurt them. And so the practice, there's a loss of practice when we're not doing face-to-face relationship. We don't get to practice repair.
mm,
We don't get to practice I'm sorry. We don't get to practice the empathy as you're seeing.
mm,
There's so much about human relationships that just doesn't get to be played out on social media. Um, and so even oh, I'm sorry, I think I missed you. Let me try again. You don't get
mm,
that opportunity. You don't know how people are responding to what you've said. And so there's just what you're naming is there's just so many different parts about human relationship skills, um, and just parts of healthy relationship that we have to practice over time that we don't get to. Uh,
Yeah, and we're bypassing that, right? With our kiddos,
mhm.
if we think, oh, no big deal, let's introduce social media because we all do social media. And there is so much fun with it. There's also some major dangers. We didn't even talk about the pornography and all the other things that our kids get exposed to. Um, but just pure neurobiology, the way the brain starts to adjust to dopamine fixes, the way the brain starts to learn empathy and relationship, and the way the brain sees who am I and what beauty is. Those are three key factors that we're wanting um, moms of daughters and dads, and grandmas, and anybody who's walking with girls um, to think about in slowing down the need and the want to engage here. So I'm not an all or nothing kind of person, even though I sound like that because I told my girls they can't do social media, but we would do it together. I mean, that was one of the ways is maybe we would sit on the couch and we'd look at puppy videos. That was about as good as it would get for a while. And then as it got a little older, we would maybe watch some comedians or something like that together. But the idea of a 6-year-old looking at videos of how to put makeup on or to do her hair is incredibly dangerous for her understanding of her worldview. And so talk about what is healthy. What are some tips and tricks when you think about how social media can be used in a healthy way? And let's give parents a little bit of a better understanding of what can they do. And if it's
Yeah.
like, no here, but what can we do in a world that has social media everywhere?
Yeah. So I mean, social media is not all bad, right? There's actually some really creative and beautiful ways that kids can use technology as a tool and social media as a way of growing. So it's not
Mhm.
all bad. Um, Social media is a place where kids learn. There's so many videos now of like, here's a new dance move, or here's how to crochet, or there's just lots of different like ways of learning. And because social media is so integrated into the younger generation's just way of life. It's not just posting, it's I learn, there's lots of opportunities for that. So I think a creative way is to go, let's learn something together. So it's not an isolated activity. It's not like our daughters are learning something and then, or just watching a reel about something, but let's go find something and then try it together. Let's
Mm.
watch this dance move and then let's go see if we can do it too. So there
Oh,
can
I
be
love
a
that.
connective element where you're using it as a tool for connection. It's not just something she's consuming by herself.
Mm. That's really great. I love that idea of that being kind of the principle. Like, where is their connection? And where can we learn something and then do it together versus it being a numbing out or how many hours did you say? 4 to 6 hours a day is the average
Four
girl.
to seven, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of hours. And again, most good parents, I would say, are like, not my daughter. And I go, you'd be surprised at how much time they're spending in the margins. So let's talk about some practical steps and boundaries. How do we rein it in? Because most of us listening are like, oops, might have gone too far. I feel like it's God's grace that I was able to say no for my girls because I knew the data and I was seeing it in my office. And so by God's grace, I could kind of go, here's where this is going, and rein it in. But I think a lot of moms are trying, but they maybe want to have some words like, how do I set boundaries? And are there age appropriate limits that you want to suggest, Katie?
Mm, so good. Okay. Yes. So age appropriate. Let's start there. So I developmentally, depending on where your daughter is, there's things that she's going to be able to do well and handle, and things that she's just not going to be ready for. So a 12-year-old and younger, they're thinking really concretely, right? So everything that they're seeing, they're going, that's real. They don't have that ability to discern what's real and what's not. And so you're as a parent going, what is my 12-year-old, my 6-year-old ready for if they're going on the internet and they're going to take everything as reality? So there's kind of just your own parental kind of assessment of where is my child? As you mentioned, Terra, 13, 14, 12, 11, it's a huge identity place where more than any other time in their life, they're asking, who am I? And where do I belong? Belonging is a huge one. And so they're going to be more susceptible to exclusiveness on social media, bullying, when they're not feeling a sense of belonging on a virtual community. They're going to be more susceptible to anxiety, depression, as those things happen a lot. Um, and so there's just a level of going, where is my child and what are they holding right now? And what's going to be the cost? And so that will help you kind of know where are the limits. But I also think a conversation, talking with your daughter and understanding first and going, what do you use? Understand, what does she use? Does she use Pinterest or is she on TikTok? Does she like videos or does she like getting ideas? Why does she use it? What's important to her? Is it that she gets to talk with people? Is it that she gets to learn new dance moves? Is it that she's getting to express herself and she really likes being able to go, look at this video of me making the goal? And she's proud and it's a place of self-expression. So I would get really curious and just start with a conversation to really understand for her. Why does she want to use it or what's important about it to her? Before you start making decisions um, about the limits and how you want to go about that.
I love that you're saying have a conversation, which again, what we do in Courageous Girls is a regular invitation. I mean, I tee it up with like, now we're all the moms and daughters are going to turn and talk, and we're going to talk about these things, about what she's drawn to, and maybe think about um, a conversation I was having with another mom whose daughter's older, right? She's in her late teens, probably ready to start engaging social media, but she started getting fixated on eating healthy and exercise, and had recently gone through a really hard situation. And so the combination of the timing made her really fixated on diet and moving her body and losing certain weight and getting to a certain goal. And so not realizing, right? Thinking, oh, these are great sites and people you're following, and was very in tune with who and what they were doing, but didn't realize, again, the impressionableness of that age and the vulnerability of I'm hurting paired with maybe this will help. And then the wanting to be beautiful or wanting to have an image of what that looks like. And so on the verge of eating what we would call eating disordered. And a combination to a lot of reasons why that happens, but I just think we got to be more careful. Good kid, good family, healthy connections, no abuse, no like all the dynamics we assume in some really hard situations, but how powerful social media is. And so I don't mean to end on a Debbie Downer, Katie, it's just more of like the sobriety. I really want moms to think about not only in what our daughters are consuming, but what we're consuming. It is impacting us. It impacts our mood. It impacts the way we see ourselves in the mirror, as you said earlier. It impacts the truth of who we're listening to, the Lord, and our key relationships, or what the culture says is the latest and greatest. I am constantly like, maybe I need to do something with my face, like my wrinkles, right? That's because when I look on social media, they must be listening to me, right? I'm getting all kinds of ideas of how I can be younger looking. And so I have to stay focused on the real voices of these aging lines are part of my story and the beauty. And I want to model real to my girls. And every so often I'm like, it sucks to age. So
Mm.
us looking at our own, how we're feeding ourselves, and then how we are coaching our girls, just to have sober mindedness. So as we end this conversation, Katie, what are you left with? What words of encouragement or last tips that you want to offer before we wrap up today?
I think what's coming to mind is just the image of how overwhelming sometimes social media can feel. And as parents, we make thousands of decisions a day on behalf of our kids. And then social media, you go, wow, there's so many more decisions to make here. That I just get the picture of just a mom and a daughter sitting side by side and learning how to navigate together, making decisions together, really understanding the cost and the benefits, the good of social media together. I think this is an opportunity for moms and daughters to connect and to have really beautiful and rich conversations and to learn how to talk about hard things and to model decision making and to model just thoughtfulness about the choices we make and what we spend our time doing. And so there's just so much richness and so much opportunity here um, that I see. I hold a lot of hope, I think, in this space for moms and daughters.
Yeah. Thank you, Katie. Now, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, they, are in Oregon and they'd like to do some counseling, or maybe they need some parent coaching beyond the Oregon borders, where can they find you and reach out to you?
Yeah, our Living Wholehearted website. So it's just www.livingwholehearted.com. We have a counselor page and they can find my profile, my bio, and then my contact information is all on there.
So great. Well, thank you for joining me for this conversation, Katie. I'm very passionate about it. Can you tell? And I can we could probably talk another half hour. And I think I'm so passionate is just because of what you said earlier, the real relationship. That's really what this is about. It's not that social media is bad. It's just sugar compared to the healthy goodness of real relationship. It's just a quicker fix, but it isn't going to nourish us in the way that we're made for. And so continuing to remind us of that. And it's not going away. So we got to learn together. So good word there. Thank you for being with me today, Katie.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was great.
So good. And if you are new to Courageous Girls, check out our website, mycourageousgirls.com, where you can learn about having those ongoing conversations that Katie's talking about, and that are age appropriate, they're trauma informed, but they're biblically rooted. And you're going to learn how God's word really applies to the day we live in right now in this digital age. And really, we just tee you up. We give you all the conversations and learning how to do in real community with other moms and daughters. So I hope if you're not joined us yet as a Courageous Girl group, that you'll consider praying about it, check it out, and share this podcast, this episode with someone else. Maybe leave us a review. It's an important topic that we want to keep in front of all of us. And until the next time we're together, continue to remember that you're the right mama for the job.